This is Melly from Next Day Cabinets. I am the office manager in here, selling kitchen cabinets, closets, and vanities. We are working with multiple projects. Discovered Move around over a year ago, and then one of the Move member invited us to their networking event, and we attended that. This is how we heard about Move. We had projects through Move, and then we met with one of the Move member, and then he also helped us a lot to get some business with his connections. This is a very professional way for us to get this in business. The Move Chamber was an amazing opportunity for us because we had so many opportunities through Move, so many networking events that we always join, and that we meet new people in this business. Definitely, I would recommend to join someone who is considering to join Move.
Please welcome to the stage Move Business Chamber Board Member Raheel Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you. Thank you everyone for joining us today to participate in our panel geared towards constructive relationships in construction and contracting. It is my pleasure today to introduce our moderator, Sister Melike Ayan. Sister Melike Ayan owns Mel Strategies. That's her own company. She was also, and she is currently, New York correspondent for Bloomberg HT Television, where she provides in-depth coverage and analysis of major economic and business trends, including in-depth reporting on global corporations. Ayan also joined Bloomberg in 2010. She has anchored and reported segments around the globe, including IMF, World Bank, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and she has interviewed numerous major investors. It seems like I can go on and on and on. She has done such a wonderful job as a host. She has a business admin degree from Turkey, and she has a master's from Rutgers University. It's my great pleasure to introduce Sister Melike as our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, board member, Brother Raheel, and thank you for the kind introduction. I'm honored to be part of Move Chamber, and I'm honored to be moderating this amazing session, which is about building partnerships, building very efficient, effective, and constructive partnerships in construction and in contracting businesses, fields, sectors. And I couldn't have had the best two candidates to speak about this better than Mr. Sal Migliore and Mr. Don Slaiman. So having said that, I also would like to add to Move's mission. Move Chamber strives and thrives to connect businesses, builds partnerships, and educates us. So I am here to learn and educate myself as much as you do in terms of how we can do A to Z 360 project management in construction, and then how do we organize, unionize in a sector all the electrical workers in the state of Virginia, which is the capital of the data centers, capital of the world in terms of the data centers. And Dawn is amazing in doing this. I can't wait to hear from both of them, but I'd like to make a very quick introduction to my panelists. So I will start with Don. Don Slaiman, Political Director at IBU Local 26. He is the Director of Political and Community Outreach for the Local 26 Electricians Union. So that's what IBU Local 26 stands for. 42 years. Don, how did you fit it in? Career in the labor movement, having previously worked to build trade union structures and organize workers, and listen to this, in 44 countries. Yeah, and 39 states. Can't wait to hear this. So, Sal Migliore. Am I pronouncing your name
Yes.
correctly? Okay. He's the Vice President of Land Beazer Homes, but he's also the market manager for NVR Ryan Homes. Combined over there, he has 16 years of experience, but in total, he has more than 25 years of experience as a home building executive, very experienced and talented in what he does, as I said, in terms of project management, not outsourcing, doing everything internally. He succeeded to build this platform in both brands, and we will hear about that. So after the introduction, I would like to leave the stage to you to start with you, if you don't mind me, Sal.
Sure.
Can you share a bit of your personal journey in construction and how it shaped your current approach in partnerships?
Sure. So to start, NVR is a builder of homes across the nation, and we go from north to Canada, down to Florida, and then west. And so my journey started in building the houses physically out in the field, and started there. NVR has a policy where they like to take folks and work them through each area of the building industry, from construction to sales, purchasing, to land, to management, so that you get a wide breadth of what's involved, and as you're going through it, what areas you have to be looking out for and what areas to focus on as you're going through it. I think the biggest thing that take away from that is in all those areas you're dealing with people, and that it boils down to you're working with trades, electricians, plumbers, in the field building it, and your end result is you're building a home for someone that's going to live in it, raise their children in it, and experience life through that home that you're actually working to construct and build. And that goes through the sales portion of it, just from another aspect of viewing it. You're trying to relate all those items, whether it's in purchasing the right selections. So all those things have to focus on the end result, which is the people that are going to live in that home and that create that family that hopefully will recommend you for the next home and continue that cycle. So it's all about people, whether it's your people working towards that goal or the people that will be the end user of it. And how do you treat those people through that process?
Well put, so people is at the core of your sector.
Absolutely.
And same with you, Don, people, contracting, unionizing, which is a legendary profession you took over even from your dad. We were talking about that behind stage. Your dad was also an activist and a union organizer, and you took the flag from him, but you made it even bigger in this state, which is going to be a pilot study almost. Can you tell us about your journey? How did you build this partnership? How did you do this in contracting?
Thank you very much. And so I've worked in the labor movement for 42 years, and both overseas and here in the United States. And most of my career was dealing with deindustrialization and globalization, which has driven down wages and also put a lot of people out of work. And so I've been trying to help communities come together to support each other when they lose a factory or mine or mill, and dealing with the downside of the change in the economy. But now, in my present position, working for this local union of electrical workers, it's something I've never experienced before. I'm in the epicenter of a growing industry. The data center industry is this expanding exponentially here in Northern Virginia. If you take the 6 largest markets for data centers in the country, they together are not as big as the data center industry in Northern Virginia. And these are careers of tomorrow being performed today. And because of that, I've taken somewhat advantage of that, of this growing industry, to impart upon this industry in its nascent stage, in its growing stage, of the values I have as a trade unionist and why I joined the trade union movement. Because this industry is growing, but they are facing a lot of pushback from from that growth. It's become so quickly and so abruptly. And so in helping this industry get their projects permitted through the supervisors who were on stage this morning and through local politicians, I've have encouraged the industry to diversify their contractor base so that they're trying to promote minority and women-owned entrepreneurs. I've pushed them to help us clean up the bad vestiges of the construction industry where some unscrupulous contractors would pay 100 carpenters or 200 electricians at a time as independent contractors, saying they really don't work for me, so they would not be responsible for their overtime or their workers' compensation or their unemployment insurance or their Social Security. And so this industry has helped me clean up those bad practices in return for me helping them grow their businesses. And this has been able to have the same workers who may be exploited are now working through these recent immigrants working through a trade union have access to health care and overtime and benefits. And so it's just such an opportunity. These are careers of tomorrow being performed today. These are careers that I won't have to worry about leaving or closing down in the next few decades. These are jobs that will be here for quite some time. And not only is it good for workers, and we've grown from 7,000 electricians to 14,000, and a lot of that growth we've been targeting, we've been working with CASA, we've been working with an NAACP, we've been working with organizations like MOVE, we've been working with and targeting disadvantaged communities to get into our apprenticeship program to have careers building these data centers. These are programs that are free to their participant. It doesn't cost them anything to get in the apprenticeship program. And the program in the last 5 years, it's 8,000 hours on-the-job training and 800 hours of learning in our training in our schools and our training centers. And they get paid to come in and train. They work 9 days in the field where most of their training comes from a journey person handing down, like a doctor's practice, handing down the principles. And then they come in for the book learning, and they get paid as if they're on the job. So they're getting paid to learn. And they start at $24.80 an hour with no experience, and just passing an aptitude test and an interview, and they leave after 5 years getting paid $62 an hour with another $5 annuity and great pensions. And so this is such an opportunity for folks to have a career. They don't have to go to college, and yet they can make six figures and be very productive folks in our community. And so it's just such a difference to me working in a growing industry instead of one that's dying.
Yes, I'll get back to some strategies that you utilize doing that, but I want to ask Sal, if you allow me, how do the contractors and construction companies navigate the balance between rigid, if I might say, contract terms, right? There are very rigid contract terms, and the flexibility to adapt, which is needed actually, flexibility needed to adapt to the real world project changes, the sustainability, the other requirements. The projects are constantly changing. The world is changing. So how would construction companies and contractors navigate this balance?
So it's difficult because you got a lot of different policies that are created, some national, some local. Each one of those are different. We operate in 1,000 different locales. And each one of those is unique, but yet we try and build a similar product for each of those areas. Some are, as you get closer to DC or big cities, you try and go more vertical with product, condominiums, that sort of thing. And those have their own set of guidelines from building to EPA to even local restrictions. So you try and look at, obviously what's best for the end user, again, back to that, and then try and understand, those local guidelines and the folks that enforce those, trying to understand their policies and their views on it, and each one of them can be how it's interpreted. So there is a lot of, I hate to be repetitive, but it's getting back to those individual people and having folks that are trained through the process. We had talked about earlier about how we, as NVR, try and take folks through each part of the process so that as they're going through it, they're not looking with tunnel vision, just at their unique piece, but at all of it holistically. So that way you can start looking at how this is going to affect down the line, and then be able to understand that, and if you can change that so that it's better, regardless of what that outcome is, to try and impact that so that others that will have to touch it. But we also do things like, solar, having the data centers and having those things that are coming on, having those type of availabilities in the home itself, and how to work that in and try to weave that through the process. So,
And everything is in-house?
everything's in-house.
So this is something very rare among construction companies and contractors, not to outsource, which you have been doing from A to Z, like you said, land acquisition to solar to others. How do you do this?
It's, again, a lot of training, a lot of taking folks through that. I think our company, based on, I've had the opportunity to work at other companies, and I've come back to finish my career there, because the basis, the training that was implemented into us, very rhythmic, very almost military-like, in how to do the same thing each time, so that it's not a lot of thought process involved. It's muscle.
On the job
Yeah,
education.
correct.
Yes.
And so that those things that you build similar products, you build them the same way with variation by county or areas and locales, and you try and get it so that if somebody buys a home in Rochester, New York, and wants to move to Georgia, Alabama, those areas, it's a very similar product, and they'll have similar results. So it's a lot of repetition, it's a lot of training, and to do that in-house, though, provides advantages from a price point, from doing it well, from word of mouth, that pays off over the long haul. So those are, I don't know if that answered the question, but that's typically how we do it, and try to weave those variations into that.
I'm sure the answer would require like a manual, like a book to write and to educate also
Well, we have
companies like yourself.
They have manuals for training,
Right.
for production, for sales, all the way down the line. And
But this is exemplary to all the businesses who want to be and tap into the all internal, no outsource. How can they engage with you? How can businesses, companies, people engage with, because it's hard to engage with the construction companies?
So what we try and do, we have a very good base, but we're always looking for opportunities for new, because as folks grow, sometimes they branch out and want to go in different areas. Sometimes folks, as they grow, don't plan as well, and then the results that we have as we're building, we have a very stringent tolerance that we want to stay within. So we always have to have different opportunities for folks to come in and be part of that, be it electricians, plumbers, framers, sales, AI, in our marketing department. There's always that opportunity for new, and it's knowing your product, knowing it well, and knowing how it integrates with how we're going to use it. So having that knowledge, having that, it's much like a relationship that you have with a spouse or a family member. It's knowing that person or knowing that company intimately, so that you can kind of understand the direction they're going to go when a situation happens, because there's always some type of situation or opportunity that arises that you have to deal with, and knowing how you're going to deal with that, or how that person's going to react, or how that company's going to react, being able to kind of have a sense to foresee that and be able to respond
So
accordingly.
adopting, customizing, and like you said, military technology, AI use.
Right.
And I would like to ask the same question to you, Don, in terms of how can we engage with you, your organization. But before that, can you tell me the strategies that you use when you manage some disagreements? I'm sure there were tons of it. Or renegotiate terms without damaging the partnerships?
So, I've worked with industrial unions and public employee unions, and construction unions previously, but now working for a electrical workers union. These construction unions are based on their relationship with the contractors. It's called business unionism. It's more of a, we're not in a struggle with our employers. We're in a collaboration. We have over 200 union contractors that are part of our training system, and that system is symbiotic. It's two folks from the Contractors Association, two folks from the union, and a training center who does the interviews and who runs these training centers. And so, of our 200 contractors, many of them started, I'd say a third of them started as our members who started their own business. And so it's really trying to help each other out. And right now, today, I've talked to 4 different contractors who I hope would join our system. In our system, it's very flexible. It's when if you're a company and you want to grow, you don't want to. It's very hard in the ups and downs of the construction industry. If you hire maybe 15 or 20 folks for a new project you hope to get, and then you don't win the bidding process, and then what do you tell those 15 or 20 people? And you feel awful that you raised their hopes. But with joining with our union, we have a hiring hall, so the company can take a risk and bid a bigger project they've never done before, knowing that they can come to our system for the human power. And then as they're winding down the project, there's no seniority standards. The contractor holds on to the employees they want. Some have different skills, and there's no stigma for the worker being sent back to the hiring hall, and then they get sent out to another contractor. So it's evolving, and so it makes for a much better relationship because we're there to promote their business. They got to win these bids, and so we also can't price ourselves out of the market. And so it's a kind of a very different relationship than you would see in an industrial union. Mm-hmm. And also we're trying to find ways. So right now, Raheel has been very helpful as a planning commissioner in getting these data centers to listen to the needs of the community. And one of the needs of the community is job opportunities. I've been to Raheel's Mosque and on Ibu Barak. I didn't pronounce it right. I'm sorry.
Barak.
I spoke to 5 different sessions that day with one of our members who was a member of the mosque, and trying to have people come out and join our training center. So it's if you're going to get something built in your community, if you get them into our training program, not only do you get something built in your community, but you have a career for someone, a licensed, a multi-skilled person, not just understanding one task, but all attributes and all tasks in the electrical industry, so they're marketable and for very high wages, and get a license where they can travel anywhere in the country. That license is reciprocated in the entire country. So it's more of a cooperation between the workers and the union, and this actually goes back to the Renaissance. With the artisan guilds, the first free people who worked on 100-year buildings, and so you have whole generations, and that begot the mercantilism. And it created a Renaissance in Italy, and also all the same up in the Hanseatic League with Germany and the Netherlands. This cooperation between workers and skilled training programs and local authorities to build things goes back over to the 12th century. And those are the first free people and the first folks who actually started a middle-class living, and that begot all the patrons that created all the art. So it's a model that goes back hundreds of years, and we're trying to reciprocate here and in this area with this new industry like the data centers.
Beautiful. Well, we are going to continue with the Q&A from the floor. I'd like to remind our audience that you can submit your questions through the app. So if you find a session, which is at 3 p.m., Building Partnerships in Construction and Contracting, you can submit your question. While we are grabbing the questions, I have a 1 minute or less, half a minute answer question that I want to ask you both. So you talked about technology, you utilize AI. I want to ask the same question to both of you. How is technology impacting building partnerships in contracting and in construction?
In construction, it's impacting us in that we can look at things without having to go out and do it. We can test run things without being out there, and help us to eliminate mistakes or errors through their process. So that's helping, through the training process and through the actual physical building of it, by eliminating errors and making it quicker.
Thank you. I know it is a 100-year-old model, and it is amazing. It's working. But how do you use and utilize technology in contracting?
Well, so in our training facilities, it takes a lot of materials to practice, but now we're using virtual reality. So you save on material costs, and you're doing the same techniques with wiring and creating and cutting conduit and stuff. You don't have to waste the materials, so you just do it virtually. The other thing is we build the AI. That's what these data centers are. So there would be no AI industry. We're 45% of the work in a data center. The AI, the cloud that we're building, where 45% of the construction work is electrical, and then we have 30 folks in doing maintenance in all these completed buildings. So we're the ones who are going to repair the world's brain, repairing the AI for the next centuries, rewiring it and recreating the efficiencies. And so we're counting on this industry to grow. Microsoft just recommissioned 3 Mile Island in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. All that power of the nuclear commissions have been recommissioned, is going to create one data center for AI for Microsoft.
Wow, yes, the hardware part of it, right? It's amazing. So I would like to ask my colleague if there are any questions on the floor. If not, I'll ask one more. Okay, so until we're waiting for any questions from the floor, I would like to ask my panelists, for those in the audience, I can talk on behalf of you, I'm assuming, considering entering into new partnerships, what one piece of advice would you emphasize to help them lay a strong foundation?
I think the main thing is knowing, knowing your strengths, emphasizing those, being persistent and going out, because it takes a lot of time to do that, and then know what companies that you're wanting to engage with. Know them, know their strengths, know their issues that they're having, and be able to exemplify your benefits and how they will solve issues for them. And then it's an easy decision. If you can go to them and say, hey, by doing this, I can save you X, Y, and Z, or I can get it done quicker, then it shows that you've taken on that challenge and be able to fix an issue. And that will lead to not only being part of their company, but encouraging others to come with you.
Strengths and partnerships, yes.
I think what we have today and belong to an organization like MOVE, which can bring together the political leaders, the community leaders, unions and business, and working together and listening to each other with common goals of our shared values of helping lift each other up, also create new development going forward, not just staying in one spot, but building and going forward, but that you can be part of an organization like this, which is willing to expand and willing to put people together, put people to listen to each other, to work with each other, and to trust each other, and to get out of your space. And I think that to have an organization like this, which is opening so many doors with the 3 leaders of our counties here, with unions and business in the same room, I think this whole conference answers your question.
That's so true. And we do have the mic for the Q&A session, so you can have the microphone for the question. One of my colleagues, I can't see where he is, but he's carrying it, and he can, if you raise your hand, oh, right there, you can call him, and he will come next to you to allow you to ask the question. So I have a personal question. I learned a lot about not only construction and contracting, but also how to build effective, efficient, successful, constructive partnerships from both of you. Is there any manual maybe from your book, because your dad was with Dr. King. I mean, I saw the photos. This requires a beautiful bio. And Sal, your approach, military, maybe you said, but adaptive, customized, solution-oriented, putting people first at the core kind of approach could be exemplified and then used in any sector, any field. Did you ever consider writing a book about this?
I haven't considered that, but I think you're right. I think being able to, to simulate that again and again,
Right.
just creates and makes that better, polishes that, whatever profession you're in, so that you're able to do it and know how to do it very quickly.
Yes. And Don, you're not out there. I wanted to learn a lot about you, but your website, your Facebook, and then when I researched, I found another Don Slaiman, born in 1919, died in 2000, doing exact same thing you're doing in terms of connecting, organizing, unionizing trade unions, in not many countries like you did, but he did, and that was your father. How do you feel being the legacy carrier?
Well, at one point, nepotism can go really bad or really good. And
Yeah.
you see some of the pro football players, and you can't fake it where their sons are successful. But you've also seen where in life where somebody thinks something's granted or given to them. But for me, it's been a privilege and an honor to work for working people. And so I'm a bit of a workaholic because I feel guilty because of nepotism, but it is my calling. It's what I believe in. I believe that unions are the basis for a democracy. That's what I did. I was arrested by the Serbs in Kosovo for helping them build a free trade union movement. And by the way, the leaders of that trade union movement were the Small Businessmen's Association. So there's all kinds of form of unions. But it's just been such a privilege for me to see workers get empowered, see workers take the power within themselves. When workers don't feel they have power, they turn to demagogues, they turn to strong persons, and that's what we have to make sure doesn't happen. So that's another reason why the importance of MOVE. Politics doesn't have to be divisive. Politics doesn't have to be teams. If you look at local politics, if you look at these decisions on these land use decisions on building homes and data centers, these are our local politicians, and they give up all their time and effort. It's a thankless job, hours and hours of very boring hearings that I find hard to follow, but they give up all their time just to devote to their community. I think there's always more you can do in your community, in your mosque, in your neighborhood, and an organization like MOVE gives you the opportunity. And so it's just finding a way you can help others, and it's so rewarding.
And I quote, you said, "My greatest honor is providing career opportunities to thousands of workers through our Earn While You Learn apprenticeship programs, which are free to the participants." This is for you, for our audience, that I wanted to announce and add. So the question to my answer is, I guess, you might consider writing a book. But we are very honored and grateful to have both of you attending this session and sharing your valuable insight about how to build constructive, efficient partnerships. And MOVE Chamber, as you said, Don, is all about connecting, networking. It takes one connection to get to know 26, which happened to me. In the audience, there's a gentleman, a colleague of mine. His name is Haldun. I can't see, that's why I'm just saying audience. And he was my contact to get to know about MOVE Chamber. MOVE Chamber is all about connecting, networking, and building partnerships. The way he did it for me, I would highly recommend you to come up to our speakers, panelists, ask questions, connect with them, exchange business cards, do all the networking, because that's what we need in today's world, connection. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, Don Slaiman and Sal Migliore. Still no questions from the floor? Oh, there's one, okay. One in the back, and I'm checking the app for any questions. It's all about technology and utilizing of the app.
Working.
Yes?
Good afternoon, and thank you for sharing your very valuable insights. My name is Mohammed Al-Hassani. I work for the New York City Office of Management and Budget, where I work on grant management and oftentimes working with disasters. My question to you is, how are businesses, and especially new and small businesses, what's your recommendation and advice for them to navigate securing government contracts and being able to kind of speak that language and get ahead in regards during the bidding process for when certain government agencies require when they put out an RFI and are looking for new businesses? I know that there are certain new rules that are introduced about minority business, minority and women-owned businesses, but how can these small businesses or new businesses, especially because some of the requirements are that you've had work with the city before, what is your advice for securing that first government contract?
So the question is, how can small businesses secure government contracts? Do you work with government?
We don't.
Sal?
We don't. We're not unionized. When folks come into us, there's not a governmental requirement. It's just making sure that you're, as we said before, doing well in what you're doing, so that you can represent that. But there's no guidelines or governmental paths that you have to take to become that. I think probably in the union, I would suggest it's probably.
But thank you for the question. It's a very good question.
Yeah, I can answer that question. When our economy collapsed during the Great Depression, they passed a law called the Davis-Bacon Act for federal jobs that set a prevailing wage. They didn't want, when they wanted to stimulate the economy with government dollars to create infrastructure, they didn't want to, while they're stimulating the economy, pay below, drive wages down. So they did wage surveys by each construction craft, and they established a prevailing wage. And so that is, and so usually it ends up being the union wage because you have to fill out all these forms for the survey, and so we are really adamant that our contractors fill out these forms. And so what happens is when you build a school or that you use the prevailing wage there, so the folks, not only are you going to get a building built, a school, but you're also going to lift up the folks working on the job. And also, we're working with Barbara Lateef. Some may know him. He's the head of the school board in Prince William County. We're going to have a project labor agreement on this elementary school where the county can't say, I want to have so much work given to a minority contractor, or I want to have local hire, I want to have so many folks who live in the vicinity get jobs on that project. They can't say it because of the way of the laws of our land, but the general contractor who's doing that work and the unions can have a collective bargaining agreement for that construction work. And in that agreement, we can say, we want 30% of that work set aside for a minority or women-owned business. We want to make sure that 20% of the workforce is hired locally and is graduated from a Prince William High School. So we can put that kind of language into a contract in the procurement process. And so not only do we get a building built, or it's going to get built anyhow, but we're able to get those local folks into our hiring system, into our training system, and so then they can have a multi-skill and have this great middle-class career. And so that's how you're able to use public policy to get more done than just having a building built. You can get some of the social values that you have in your society put in place as you're constructing things.
Thank you so much. It's been a very educational, informational, insightful session. It's a fireside chat, so it's off the record, and you can ask anything and everything. So this is going to continue out of here, because my producer is telling me we're out of time. But feel free to come up to our speakers. They are very approachable. They are amazing mentors as well. And do not hesitate to exchange information. And thank you for the question. I appreciate it.
Good question.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was the end of our session. And thank you again, Dawn and Sal, for this session.
Thank you so much, Sister.